talk a little about Friendship Bracelets. What's the vision behind the project, the collaboration? Love to hear it in your words.
Friendship Bracelets, originally the idea of Friendship Bracelets as a kind of distribution thing came many years ago in my life as a CEO of a ceramic tile company. I had 2,000 clients, and every year we'd give them something nice for Christmas. And a lot of my competitors would give cookies, or they would give, I don't know, like stuff that sweets, people, just shit that people didn't want. And I wanted to give something unique. And, I grew up making friendship bracelets for people at summer camp, and that was like my first entrepreneurial venture. And I decided to design 3 friendship bracelets and have 2,000 sets of those made, put into a little box, and that's what we gave all of our clients. And to me, this was a very interesting social experiment because the idea is, clients can say thank you in so many different ways. But to me, the most impactful way that a client could say thank you at that time was wearing their bracelet. And seeing hundreds of people put on those bracelets and then seeing those people wear their bracelets for years after, to me was a very subtle and humble way of saying thank you for the things that my company does, for the vision that I may have brought this industry, this business. And when I made those 2,000 bracelets, I originally asked the factory if they could make just 2,000 different ones. And they're like, yeah, no, they're all going to be the same. Well, 3 different ones, 2,000 of each. And at that point, I was coding, and I was like, oh man, I can code up a friendship bracelet and I can design all sorts of different ones, but the factory's going to want to make them all the same. Fast forward to the release of Art Blocks, and maybe 6 months in, 8 months in, releasing and understanding this mechanism and how people were embracing and appreciating this, and also kind of like these conversations of governance and value and utility, and is there art even without utility, and all these things. And my mind started kind of coming up with this concept of like, what is a way of having utility that is not based on future promises of future value, but encapsulated fully in the NFT. And then also there's all these other thoughts about like physical goods and how connected they are to digital goods, and what happens when you separate the digital and the physical, and does one or the other or both lose inherent value, financial value from the separation. I think that physical goods are some of my favorite things that I own are physically connected goods to the blockchain. So I'm being very hypocritical in saying this, but I think they're incompatible with the purity of what blockchain technology is, which is we have this technology that guarantees authenticity. It guarantees self-sovereignty. And then we are kind of forcing this thing now where you can no longer guarantee authenticity. And, if I own this physical thing that's represented by an NFT, if somebody, if I accept somebody's offer on OpenSea, what happens to the physical good? Like there's just this whole thing, and it makes me uncomfortable. I'm not saying it's wrong. It just kind of makes me uncomfortable. And so in those similar times, I'm thinking about this concept of what's an ephemeral physical, which is a physical that has no inherent value. It's literally meant to be worthless. It only has value to you as the person that made it, or you as the person that received it as a gift. And, this old, experience with friendship bracelets kind of came in, and I then thought, okay, like let's try this experiment. Let's try to create something where the NFT itself is the instructions. It's like the DIY. It's the utility is giving you instructions. And yes, you can find those instructions on the internet to how to braid a bracelet. It's like the easiest thing in the world. But this is a proof of concept here, right? And proof of concepts like the Chromie Squiggle have had interesting success in the space. And of course, you never know when an idea you're going to have is going to flop. But I felt conviction in that the friendship bracelets, when coupled with like a brilliant work of art, and getting to work with Alexis André, which is one of my favorite artists in the space, has been a truly magical experience. But combining the physical object that is ephemeral with a beautiful piece of art, and on the internet, we use the NFT as a way to signal who we are digitally. We had our PFP. This is our signal. This is like the community we belong in, or the artists that we like and support. And in the physical space, I wanted to create an ephemeral signal as well. And so, anybody can have a friendship bracelet. But in this space, if you're wearing one of these, and it can be a signal that you're a participant. And it's a very subtle and subdued signal. It's not, like a big Bored Ape on front of your shirt. Although I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But this is subtle. And it's a way of like, look, one day we're going to see someone with 10 bracelets. It's like, because they have the 10 NFTs, and like, it's a way of signaling how deeply you are part of this community. There's a friendship component here where you're encouraged to give away your bracelets. We made bracelets free to mint to anybody that had ever purchased an Art Blocks artwork or that held one, and then we gave an extra one to give away. And yeah, the project has completely exceeded my expectations. I felt good about it, but you just never know, and you never know in the space what's going to be well received or not. I think that there's going to be so much fun and transparent data that's going to come out of this. I think awesome allow lists are probably going to be born from the Bracelet project because it is a demonstration of a slightly different participant in the space, not wildly different, but slightly more friendly, compassionate person. Otherwise, like if you're really just kind of an evil troll, you're probably like, yeah, I'm not allowing that level of happiness into my life. Like they just refuse. So I don't know. I'm really excited. I think the Friendship Bracelet project is. It's another way. I think it is our duty as platforms to continue to innovate. Obviously we can continue to make the experience for artists and collectors better on the platform, but we need to continue to innovate and get people excited and keep people engaged. And contrary to a lot of the way a lot of NFT platforms or blockchain platforms operate, the way to do that is to like assault them with more things to buy, but promise that those things are going to be worth a lot of money in the future. And it was very meaningful for us to be able to like innovate and reward everybody for participating in our space and make people think a little bit outside the box. Like, what does it mean if I own this NFT and I make the bracelet and then I sell the NFT? Like, do I have to take off the bracelet? No, just keep the bracelet. What does it mean if like, I don't know, your favorite palette is unaffordable, like, and you just make a bracelet with that palette and you don't own the NFT? Who cares, right? Like this is meant to like challenge the way that people look at scarcity. It's meant to challenge the way that people look at each other in this space and collaborate with each other in this space, and how people identify with specific genres of NFT product. And ours is generative art, and this is a wonderful product market fit. And you have the 36 employee palettes plus Alexis palette, and then you have the infinite randomized mixed patterns that can be created with the algorithm, and just seeing where it all goes. I'm just really excited about it.
Can you explain what are friendship bracelets? We can just start there.
Okay, so my latest project with Art Blocks, that is called Friendship Bracelets, was actually in collaboration with Erick, also known as Snowfro, the founder of Art Blocks. And this was actually an idea that he had for a long time. Like the first time he talked about that idea was in June of last year. And he has this really deep relationship with friendship bracelets, that he's been using them as a token of friendship with his customers, with his friends. And he really believed in this idea, okay, I make you a bracelet, and if I see you in a few days or in a few weeks holding that bracelet, it's a statement about what your friendship means. And he wanted to do the same thing for the Art Blocks community. So having a way to thank all the people that have been involved in the whole Art Blocks community, and to just have a token of appreciation. So that was the start of the idea. Like, can we make an art piece that is a token that represents the friendship bracelet? And there is this duality. Okay, so it's a friendship bracelet, it's an hardware, it's a physical piece, but it's also a representation of a digital artwork. So we have something that is virtual, that is an artwork made by me. So if you've been following my work, you will recognize my style in the piece, but it's a representation of a bracelet. So the bracelet, even if it's real, it's a fake one, because the real one is the digital art piece. So it's kind of weird to think about this. But so Erick asked me to do this, and it was kind of a challenge because it's going to be for all Art Blocks pieces holders. It's going to be a huge amount of mints. How do you make a generative system that can work for 20,000 pieces, 50,000 pieces? So far, I've only been doing algorithms that work for 720. That was the most I've ever done. And there is a challenge in doing something that has enough depth to be able to hold the creative process up to that amount of mints. So it was kind of really interesting to work with this idea. Okay, so the token will be this acknowledgement of you being part of the community. Erick wanted the instructions to make the bracelets to be part of the artwork. So it's also like if you click on the piece, you get the instructions to make the physical artwork. So it's kind of It's an art piece that has utility because it gives you the instructions to make the physical representation of the art piece. It's a challenge because it has to work with 72,000 means. That's the maximum that could be minted so far. And it's also meant to be a really straightforward, low-key concept. This is a friendship bracelet. We will gift you two. One for you, one for a friend. If you share those, it would be amazing because you can introduce people to the concept of generative art, to the concept of art blocks, to the concept of what it means to have a bracelet that represents something of being part of the community. So that was kind of how it started. And then it took me a few months is to just get the start going, and then more months is to just get to the point where this was good enough to support that level of engagement and everything. And it's been a crazy experience. Like I guess nobody was expecting the level of engagement we got with the bracelets. People are collecting stuff. People are like crazy about the bracelets. They kind of appear to love the art. So I'm really glad that it actually went through. So it's a simple concept. I guess because it's simple, people kind of relate to it and they can appreciate the fact that it has enough depth. So if you're looking into the piece, you can find what you're looking for. So that was, I guess, the goal for the project, was to combine this idea that it's a simple token, but that as an art piece, it also works by itself. It stands by itself. So that's the idea.
Love it. How was the experience collaborating directly with Erick on this?
Well, collaborating with Erick has been incredible in a lot of ways. Well, at first, we also have to acknowledge that Erick has been a huge fan of my works since the beginning. I think he's one of the biggest collectors of my works. When I did Messengers, that was my third piece on Art Blocks, it was the first one that collected a full palette set. And it's like 29 palettes or so. And he went through hoops to just gather the final 2 palettes that he didn't have. And he made this whole collection online where you can see the whole extent of my pieces. And it's like a really dedicated collector, in the sense that he goes through hurdles just to collect the pieces he wants. And he's been a huge fan. So we were talking about this idea of doing something for Art Blocks and how Art Blocks should evolve as a gallery, as a company, as a platform. And we were having a lot of very fruitful discussion. And then the idea of bracelets came. And to be fair, he was kind of low-key in terms of art direction. Like he was saying, do your thing. I want more saturated color because I guess Erick is known for the squiggles. They're kind of very saturated colors. And he kind of pushed me to like raise the saturation of the color I've been using. But it was kind of really interesting because he trusted me to come up with something that was at the same level of my other pieces, but also to represent Art Blocks as a company and that everything that it represents. So it was kind of really humbling in a way because he was trusting me with this idea of everything. And what was the most interesting in terms of collaboration is that he had this idea of allowing all the Art Blocks employees to choose their palettes. So the palettes in the friendship bracelets have been chosen by the Art Blocks employee. So they all got the list of colors that were possible to use physically as in existing colors. And they just created their own palettes. So for me, creatively speaking, I would say that there are some palettes that I would not have chosen if I'm being nice. Like this, there are some color combinations that I'm like, okay. And then I had to make those color combinations work. And so from a creative perspective, that was kind of the biggest challenge, as Erick had this idea to also make sure that the Art Blocks employee got part of the creative process, got to enjoy this idea of putting something into the algorithm that represents the whole Art Blocks community. So if you know who created the palette, you have a different connection with the palette, and you can ask them for the story, why they're coming up with their palette. And some of them are very public about why they chose their colors. Some of them are still kind of not telling the story. And I really like this idea of getting to know the people that are behind what the generator has been producing. Like if you get another Time for Blood, that is Erick's palette, and when you ask him why, he will say, well, because my palette, Time for Blood, and my other pieces has been one of his favorite. And he asked me if we could use the same palette to create his bracelet and his palette. So, and suddenly you get feedback, you get a little bit of history behind the piece, and you got a little bit of like human presence as well, because there is one human being behind each different palette. So it creates this idea that Art Blocks is a group of people, it's a community, and that's why it's been so amazing to work with Erick on